Let's talk a little bit about the hospital. You're sort of taking Medtronic in a different direction where services will play a bigger role than in the past. Why is it necessary to be a services player these days?
I don't want to think of us primarily as a services player. I think of us as a player who wants to change outcomes. And if you need services to change the outcome, then that's why we need services. Okay. So we're not in there just to provide services and sort of make money out of services. We're in there to change outcomes. But we've realized that technology alone is not sufficient to change outcomes. If I go back to our mission, which is enduring, which is really talking to applying technology to change outcomes. There was a time when if you had the technology, if you had clinical evidence, and you had reimbursement, markets were created. As healthcare has gotten more complex with more capabilities in more places around the world, we've realized that a strategy which is more proactive in deploying other programmatic capabilities to change the outcome, in addition to our technology, and an understanding of economic value, is possibly required to fulfill our mission. That's where services fits in,
okay,
as areas that supplement expertise that we already have in our disease states to more effectively and efficiently change outcomes.
Can you tie that to the cath lab management?
That's one area. I mean, cath lab management is an early start, and I'd say that our whole outcomes-based thinking there is somewhat in its infancy.
Okay.
So the cath lab managed services starts with the notion that outcomes are maintained at historical levels because in these contracts we do not attempt to change the clinical decision making, and so we assume that historical outcomes are maintained. However, given that constraint, we then look at the overall workflow of a cath lab and reduce its costs, and then underwrite the cost per patient. And the service, so to speak, is aimed at achieving that purpose. Now, over time, what we intend to do is to become more rigorous about the outcome measure, quantifying it at the discharge from the cath lab or the hospital, and sometimes a little later, depending on what the reimbursement models, what kind of reimbursement models exist, and then say that we will reduce costs to maintain a very specific outcome, as opposed to just continue the historical outcome, which we have today. And that's the way in which cath lab managed services will evolve, but services will be an aid to achieving this goal.